So I want to talk a little bit about our road to GR4. Sometimes it feels like this might be where we're at. So we've talked the last few years about a lot of different exploratory paths. What is GR 4.0? What's going to be the next big thing? And there's been a lot of work presented, a lot of ideas presented, prototypes, development branches, but nothing to this point that's been concrete enough to say 4.0 is coming on this date. So when we say the road to 4.0, it has been a windy road, and we hope to feel like maybe we're past this point at this right now. We've gotten in the last year to a fork in the road where we've had to make some decisions about, do we take the path that is an incremental advancement from GNU Radio 3.0? Do we make some incremental improvements, make things better, bring in a lot of the things we've talked about, or do we make more radical changes and set ourselves up for a much stronger foundation for the future? And I think I'll be introducing again Ralph, he has proposed some incredible foundational changes that we are committing to for GR 4.0 that is going to be bigger learning curve, perhaps bumpier road, but that should pay off. So I'm not going to take too long here. I want to step through the original vision for 4.0. We haven't departed from this. So the vision that we've laid out the last few years has been modularity. One of the challenges in GNU Radio is it is this one thing, directed generally towards running things on CPU and can be adapted to other platforms, but it's not generally designed for, say, heterogeneous compute platforms or distributed architectures. So that kind of modularity, bringing in different conceptual schedulers, runtimes, it's been hard to shoe in to the code base that was, conceived 20 years ago. So this is the point where we wanted to create a new architecture to take us for the next 20 years. And in this process, we want to keep GNU Radio accessible, enhance usability, be able to bring more developers, more students, enable more research to use this, keep it accessible for people. So now what is the deal with 4.0? So the last few years we've presented demonstrations, a lot of different things. Last year we saw the ability to streamline the block development process, being able just in a couple of minutes from scratch, create a block, very little code, get you right to the work function, put your signal processing there, and it runs. In the past, we showed some ideas for scheduling enhancements, such as the performance enhancements of just being able to run the simple idea of having multiple blocks running in one thread. That can be a big boost depending on what you're doing. And then out of the DARPA SDR 4.0 project, there was a lot of work around custom buffers, and then that also some extensions to modular schedulers there. So where we got to after last year's conference was a development branch on the main repo. So we committed and said, we're going down this path of these incremental changes to GNU Radio. But what happened in the last year is, as Derek introduced Ralph yesterday, Ralph came in, saw what we had been doing on the development branch for 4.0. It fit his use case. Some things that, he's heavily invested in using GNU Radio at the particle accelerator. There's some things that GNU Radio 3.0 was unable to do easily. But we were at a point in the development process where by adding some features into GR 4.0, it met his needs. But what Ralph did is he identified things that could be further improved. And with his team of high performance computing experts, really is able to jump in and help the project tremendously. So this relationship has kind of taken us on a departure from what we laid out last year for 4.0. And Ralph is dedicated to improving the open source ecosystem rather than just solving his problem for his group. So we're deeply grateful for that. Let's see. Okay, so I don't want to spoil Ralph's talk. He's going to go into more of what this modernized GR core is, what the motivations are for it. But the basic aspects here are, through type strictness, able to use the compiler to do more work, change the scheduling architecture from a microservice architecture to a work scheduling architecture, and have less overhead that way. And also one of the big improvements here is the buffer architecture, able to handle arbitrary types. So we're going to see some cohesion between packet processing and streaming architecture, and those coming together through the same buffer architecture, through synchronous packet scheduling. So I want to outline kind of where the development branch Dev 4.0 got to, and conceptually how that is moving toward a more solid foundation with, I'm gonna have to, there's a lot of clicking here, so I apologize. Okay. So the Dev 4.0, it started as this new Sketch project that architecturally borrowed heavily from GR3, introduced a bunch of concepts. I won't go into these individually, but conceptually, what Ralph and his team had started a fresh code base. So conceptually not completely new, but a completely modern C++ implementation that this is the GSI Fair graph library, and introduces a bunch more things: strict typing, very much improved buffer structure, compile time block merging, which is an exciting one, reflection, parameter management. We'll see. I don't want to spoil the details here. Sorry, excuse me for that. Back. Okay. So now if we look at how do we actually get to a 4.0 release? So if we look at right now, we are actively developing 3.10. 3.10 is GNU Radio right now. Now, I just want to reemphasize that 3.10 is actively maintained. We should be adding features to it, using it, creating out of tree modules against it. We plan on this being around for a long time. A couple of years until 4.0 is solid. What happened along the way? We started this development 4.0 branch, brought in a lot of the code from GNU Radio, but added some of the new concepts, created this as a separate code base. But Ralph's team came in with this graph prototype code with the modern C++ core. So this is what we are going to be building upon for 4.0. So if you pull anything from this talk, it's that what Ralph is going to describe in this next talk is the basis for 4.0. Conceptually, we're going to bring in some of the usability enhancements, things from development 4.0, but we're building it upon a stronger core. And then from that, the question becomes, what's that minimum set of features that we can put a stake in the ground and say, 4.0 is ready to use. We recommend, say, SDR vendors to build drivers against it, things like that. I think that is the next step. What we need to figure out is how we actually get to something we can call 4.0. So apologize for the rambling here, but that's all I had. I want to bring Ralph up to go through more detail, and that's the definitely more exciting part of this. So any questions?
I have a question for you. So I don't know a better way to frame it, but how are you planning to ensure kind of the ease of use for the people who, aren't necessarily coders or developers, but have made good use of GRC and things like that? So what's the plan there?
Yeah, so the idea is that from a user perspective, say if you're a GRC user, we're rebuilding the core from the ground up. The usage of how you build flow graphs in GRC should not change. It's all going to be block-based signal processing. If you're developing blocks, there might be some things different. There might be some learning curves, but we have to make sure that we keep two two big things in the process. One is the ability to develop blocks strictly in Python, where you can write a Python work function. Like you don't have to develop C++ and able to do signal processing in GNU Radio. And also that you can create flow graphs in Python that are running C++ blocks. So I think those couple of things, we have to make sure that we maintain the same level of usability we have now in GNU Radio 3.
Other questions? Let's give Josh another round of applause.